Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call to order the 21st, 2022 meeting of the Electronic and Media Advisory Committee of our Makefield Township. I'm Jill Laurinaitis. We're a five-member committee with Supervisor Fred Weiss as our supervisor liaison. We can do a quick introduction and roll call. Fred, if you could just wave and say present. We have Fred Weiss, David Kelleher, and Fred Young. So with three of us here, we do have enough committee members present to have a quorum if needed. Usually next we would approve the minutes from the previous meeting, which was on March 17th, 2022, but there are no official meeting minutes that I am aware of. Would that be correct? No one's aware of any official meeting minutes. Okay. Well, I would like to just thank Ann Schreiber, Dave Kelleher, and Fred Young for conducting that last meeting in March as we transition from our former board chair, Zach Rubin, to the new one, which is me, and especially to Ann for relaying some key thoughts of the discussions and next steps for the committee since then. So now the EMAC committee generally meets every other month, and we don't meet in the summer usually. But because we haven't been meeting regularly, we wanted to have a quick touch base tonight to gear up for our next big meeting, which I believe would be in September. So about a year ago, back in September and late 2021, we kind of revived the committee after being dormant for a while, with the main topic of discussion being the need for a new and improved township website. So since that March meeting, there was some email communication with Supervisor Weiss and between Ann and him. And so it was identified that our first task at hand was to make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for community development software for the township. And it was clarified that in this year's budget, there's a line item of $50K for dramatically upgrading the website and $75K for that community development software. However, since that communication transpired, there's been a change with the township manager and that he resigned, and we are not quite sure if that's affected any of these projects, or is the township hoping to move forward? Fred, can you advise us a little bit on?
Yes, at the last, not last night's meeting, but the meeting before, at a recent meeting past, the board approved the, I think it's OpenGov.
Okay.
To establish new community development software.
Okay.
Very open. It's a very, well-known,
Widely used
municipal software. It has. We're going to use it just for permitting and community development. It can be expanded into other departments if there's a need, but right now we're starting with community development.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
It can be integrated with our web, but of course, since we're going to engineer our web presence, we now need to decide how to update, and this is where you guys come in. Your
Okay.
recommendations will be invaluable in going forward from here.
Okay. And are you looking for recommendations from us regarding certain companies to relaunch the website? Are you looking? Well, that's one question, I guess. Let's start with that.
Well, we already know that there's weaknesses in the current software. It needs to be updated. It needs to be more, I think, user friendly, so department heads can easier access it. I don't know how the new, when we acquire a new manager, but he or she may how they might want to deal with it administratively.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think for what the board is looking for is a way that the easiest way possible for us to create something, new, more user-friendly, something that the community can be happy with.
Okay. And I assume that since the budget is 50K, there will be like a formal request for a proposal process.
There can be. I mean, we can help. We can establish an RFP. The board hasn't decided. Now that we do not have a regular manager, the chair will work with the chief if we need to do something sooner than later, and we can get some kind of direction with the chair. The board hasn't, other than approve the line item, hasn't really discussed what to do. So, this is an opportunity for the EMAC to help out. And I know we already have seen something from Dave. That can be a start, or it can be, we can reach out to people we know that do this professionally, companies that we're aware of, and we can contact them to give us proposals. We can do a formal RFP. There hasn't been any guidance from the board.
Okay.
I do not want to color anything at this point because.
Okay. So you're kind of open to some suggestions here on how to proceed. The easiest, the best way, the most efficient way to go.
Can I ask a question? Just
Please.
a memory check for me, please. We have had some discussions about improving or migrating, if that's the right word, at least considering an app-driven information service, because haven't we, Dave or Jill? Because there's so much of our lives today is telephone-driven rather than computer-driven. You can have both, but should that be part of the investigative process with developers, assuming the supervisors agree? There is no LMT app, correct? Am I correct with that, Fred? Yeah, that's what I thought, because I think that goes back to the March prep that we did for that I did for that meeting.
And I've looked at a number of township websites, and there's no standard. Some townships you can't find anything. I mean anything. There's others that are really good. I am not a judge on quality of websites. I could barely turn my own computer on, so. We have, there is a recommendation that we saw. We can start to explore that if that's what the committee recommends. We can go in a different direction. We can. It's the board is looking for guidance at this point.
Go ahead, Fred.
I was just going to say it's just something to think about, given how we all live our lives. I'm not speaking for the group. I'm just asking the question. Now that I've learned how to use my cell phone after 20 years.
Well, I think. Go ahead, Dave. David, go ahead.
When you say app, I'm not quite sure if you could kind of define what you mean by way of app, because there are tools out there that are supplemental to websites to help push content back to people. So you still have your landing page, your actual website. And then there's apps and other tools that will push information from the website out to people that may be subscribed to that information. So, but the site itself should be adaptable for mobile. So it's not just it's a site that will work on your desktop and your mobile device.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the example that I recall using at previous discussions, but maybe I was talking to myself, was if you've got that app, and I guess the most relevant one would be today. It's awfully hot outside. I wonder how late the pool is open tomorrow. So rather than go to your computer to go to the LMT website, which, by the way, seems to have a lot of information in it. I'm not disparaging it. You would go to the app, the LMT app on your phone, which would give you a drop-down menu, and you'd immediately see pool, and perhaps it would be reprioritized depending on the time of the year. In the winter, it might be snow removal, et cetera. And that immediately, to your point, would take you to the page, and you wouldn't necessarily need to have access to a computer. But
Okay.
you could do it at the breakfast table,
Sure.
just by looking at the phone, like you look at the weather or whatever. So that's just the way my brain is working, or the headlines or whatever.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think to echo what Dave just said, Fred, with the relaunch of the website, I think it would be a lot more mobile friendly, and that you would be able to find information like that more easily on your phone.
Right.
But we can look into if some municipalities, maybe there are some municipalities that use apps to channel some of that more news related information so that it shows up as an alert on your phone as the website gets updated. But the website is the main kind of hub for all that information. So
Oh,
it's a
of
good
course.
thought though. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's something to look into and consider for sure. Okay. So I think, and also David, you said that you had perhaps a lead or a suggestion as to who might be a good fit for redeveloping the website. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Catapult Web, I think is the name of the company. Bill Schwartz is the owner of the company. And I work with him in other municipalities, for instance, Falls Township. And at Falls Township, he went into the township, basically took their old website, and he works on a flat rate basis. And he will take your website within a 2-week time and build it into the structure that it's currently in. And again, he has a template that he uses. I think there's over 20 municipalities that he's managing.
Wow.
I've worked with him in 3 or 4 of those municipalities, and I've actually worked on the back end too, where we're streaming video to those platforms and posting videos. So I know behind the scenes what it looks like, and he's been very helpful, very supportive. And I listed his price there. I don't know if we want to talk about the pricing now or if we want to wait till another meeting, but I think he has a flat fee that is reasonable. And again, no upfront building costs. So again, I've worked with him. That's my only contact.
With the other municipalities that he's worked with, does he basically take the existing content and put it, into a new website? Is that kind of how he works? Okay.
Yes. And I think the websites that he builds, very intuitive. The content flows nicely. Everybody does have their own section that they can update, and they can update on their own very, very easily. Everything's done in it's sort of like WordPress, but it's not. It's a kind of a CMS system that's very simple. So
That's
CMS content management system.
Yeah. Okay. Fred Weiss, I don't know. I think it might be a good idea to put out some requests for proposals. I think this person, that Dave has worked with sounds like a fantastic fit, but just to give the supervisors, something to compare it to, weigh against, might be a good idea. But before, I think that maybe making a wish list or an itemized list of what is desired for the new website, like, some criteria that it must have, some features that it must have to help the township staff streamline their workflow and their communications, and, to make it a little bit more user-friendly to residents would be a good idea. And maybe that's something our committee could do. I mean, we went through this process, I think all of us did, for the last website relaunch. So we're familiar with how the process works. And we did, I believe, put together a list of recommendations back then. And of course, things have changed and, things get more modern, but, that would be no problem for us to do that again. And we might even talk to, some of the township staff to see what their needs are in doing that. So that's how we would approach it.
I mean, we could also look at a website that someone has developed and kind of see where, if those tools are there that we'd be looking for. Okay.
Yeah.
Like for instance, even when there's a meeting for like say a board of supervisors meeting, it's nice to be able to jump on a site that has a calendar access right away, that we can see who's meeting when and where their agendas are right there and everything's in one spot, instead of say, okay, where's the meeting? When's the meeting? Let me jump over here to see the agenda. Let me see past agendas. I think his site that I've worked with in the past kind of has everything right there. And that's one thing I think is important.
Yeah.
I guess it's those type of things that we're looking at discovering.
Exactly, like some content recommendations as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. So Fred Weiss, does that sound like a good way to go? We will maybe put out some feels to some companies who might be able to, provide the service, and then come up with a list of needs and content recommendations for the new site.
That sounds fine. I mean, you can
Okay.
look at, if you want to do some homework, you can look at different townships. You can look at Falls, see how the website, other townships in the area, how their websites are going. If there's anything that looks good, we can find out who's responsible for setting it up. Contact
Right.
those companies as well. So there's whatever works is
Yep.
totally
Yep.
fine with.
And that's kind of what we did last time as well. So we're on the same page there. Yeah.
Yeah, I included links in the email that I sent. So there's a number of links there you can check out. Design.
Okay, great. I didn't see that, but I'll check it out for sure.
And also Middletown just relaunched theirs probably about a year and a half ago. And I don't know who their developer is,
Okay.
but that's another one local.
Is it impressive?
They're a client of mine, so I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, well, then you make it impressive. Okay, all right.
No, I mean, when I mean a client of mine, I mean, I do their meetings, their video meetings. They're not a web client. I didn't do anything with their website.
Okay, I got it.
It would be a good idea, and I don't want to rush anything, but it would be great if we could find some kind of recommendation by the next meeting, so that we can move it to the board for some kind of action. Because I don't know if the money will be there for the 23 budget.
Okay.
That's a different budget. So we were planning for this year. We got so not that I'm rushing anybody,
But hurry, please.
I want to keep to the schedule.
What's the timetable for what's your goal for a new supervisor, for a new manager? I'm sorry. Is there a timetable?
No, we were going through the process, and hopefully in the fall we'll have somebody. But it's finding a manager that will do that will do justice for the township is not easy. There's only a few people in the country that can do what a manager does for this size township. So it's not an easy task.
Yeah. So you want to move this project along, even if that's not in place. Is there somebody on staff at the township who the website developer will be coordinating with? Is there a point person you have in mind for that? If
Well,
not,
for now as the liaison, you'll just work through me,
okay.
and I'll you can be sure that the board will. We just retained a company that will do our technical IT stuff. Cybersecurity, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Well, if they have people that have expertise, we'll access them as well. But, yeah, right now, don't feel free to give me a call or an email. If you have any questions, I will get it to the board. I will talk to the chair. And, by the time we're ready to make, the committee's ready to make a recommendation, we'll be sure that we're doing the best thing.
Okay. Fred Young and Dave, what do you think about time-wise and kind of culling some of this information together to make recommendations for needs, content, and then, companies? Like I said, traditionally, we don't really meet in the summertime, but considering, what Fred Weiss just said about the budget, we kind of want to get this on the board's radar. So,
Well,
what do you
maybe we could have a meeting offline with the rest of the group, or as many as we can handle. And just hear from David, who some of the people are in the, he's in the business directly and indirectly, it appears. And some of the municipalities, we can start looking and seeing who we like and who does a good job. And maybe Fred can tell us, off the record, who, aside from who has a new one, who people think. We did some of this research before. Some were good and some weren't. So, and we got better, but yeah, sure, why not? If we're gonna do it, we got to do it right.
do we have to make like a formal motion to make a list of recommendations or anything like that, or can we work offline a little bit and then?
You can work offline, but you can't make a recommendation without a public meeting.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
If you're, since you're an appointed committee, so there's no problem for you to have a working session amongst yourselves. But when you're ready to make a recommendation, you need to have it during a public meeting so you can vote that the committee recommends X or Y.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there.
But we can do our own, we can do research. Yeah.
And and you can make a motion to assign tasks amongst the committee if you wish, or you just work as a committee to do whatever you think is needed to come to, get the information needed to make a recommendation.
Okay. I'm thinking that we have a working session maybe within the next 3 weeks or so, and then maybe have an August or September meeting and make a formal list of recommendations to present to the Board of Supervisors at their whatever meeting follows that meeting of EMAC.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay. We're probably not talking till September though. Wouldn't really be in August. By the time all that comes together and by the time we present at a Board of Supervisors meeting, that probably wouldn't be till August. I mean, till September.
Yeah. So if you're looking at September, I'm just not going through timelines.
Yeah.
Decide to actually recommend a company, which you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Then, the timeline will be, retaining the company and then having meetings with the web developer and the committee and the staff to develop the best content possible, best website possible. If you recommend that the board does an RFP process, then we have to go through the RFP process. That will delay acceptance, and knowing that we don't know what the 23 budget is going to be like at this point, then we risk other variables that we may not be able to control. So
Does the window for an RFP have to be a certain amount of time, like 30 days or anything like that?
usually 30 days, but developing the RFP will take time, and it'll cost, eat into the budget as well. So that's part of the.
I see.
Yeah, that 50,000, whatever that budget line item is, that includes, if we have to do an RFP, that includes the RFP.
Any thoughts? Dave and Fred?
No, I follow your lead there. I think we ought to have an offline meeting and talk about it and hear some of David's recommendations and do some further research and do whatever we can to satisfy what Fred Weiss says we need to do by that timetable.
Okay. All right, well,
Based on the number, I mean, going back to Catapult Web, based on the number of townships that they manage, I think that they've, and again, I'm open to looking at other websites, even Yardley. I've been talking to Yardley. I know their developer. I've worked with their website developer. There's other companies out there. I think what's really key is talking to the townships themselves and how they interact with their website. I think if I look at our website, I think it's a decent website, but ultimately the content on that site has to be inputted by the township staff. And unless the website's user-friendly, that information doesn't get migrated to the site. So I think whoever we're selecting, we really need to vet them by talking to the people who are using the site. And getting back to Catapult Web is I've talked to those towns. I've used it myself and I've talked to other people and it's really user-friendly. And I think that's key with whoever we choose.
and it sounds like their pricing, we would not have to, is that reasonable that we would not have to go through an RFP formal process
Right.
with that? Yeah,
It wouldn't even have to go out to bid
right.
because it's under the threshold.
Okay. Well, why don't we plan to have a working meeting in August and we'll figure out a time that works for all of us, including the committee members that aren't here, Josh and Ann, and we will make, we'll get the work done as quickly as possible so the township can move forward. And we'll keep Fred in the loop.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Just to, I know you might have to go, Dave, but just to touch base on a few other things. Under old business, I kind of had an agenda item about optimizing digital platforms to communicate with residents. It was what Fred had discussed in the March, Fred Young had discussed in the March 17th meeting. I think it kind of falls in line with what he just brought up and having some kind of app or something that might work with the website to push out news to residents. And I think what he was talking about was, we have Ready Bucks for emergency communications. And then we have the website, which houses a lot of information, but there's a little bit of a gap in, there's some timely stuff that residents would like to know that's not really getting to them as quickly as people would prefer or expect these days. So, again, that might, thoughts about that might be part of our working session that we have. We can kind of come up with some recommendations and helping that process along and using the new website to do that. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else, Fred Young.
I think what was top of mind when we had our last meeting was, and I think it was very personal. I had been over by the municipal building, the library, whatever, and perhaps we were in the final stages of construction of the roundabouts, the road changes, the things that were going, roads were closed and whatever. And I was thinking, well, if I'd have known that this was as messed up as it was, I could have come the other way, et cetera. I wish there had been a quick way. My brain works like a news guy, and where could I have gone to find out if that road was open? Where can I go to find out if Big Oak Road is closed because of snow, or there's flooding at the bottom of Sandy Run, or whatever happens in the day-to-day life of a township? And so that was my point at the time. It was
Right.
that firsthand road issue that jumped out.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's also been something that's been discussed over the years and helping to, the communications have changed and improved immensely, I think, over the past few years, but there are still some areas that, we might be able to help with new website and making some recommendations for that. So we'll certainly discuss that in our working session. Okay, kind of moving on to the next item of the agenda, which is new business. Also in that last March meeting, you guys had talked a bit about like the mission of the committee and the duties of the board members. And, Ann was going to reach out to Fred, who did provide, direction as to what tasks the board would like us to help them with. But also, again, for our next meeting, maybe think a little bit more about how do we want to define some of these roles? Is there anything else that we can do? Is there anything else that we can help with in regard to the township and residents? And one thing on my mind has been for years is community education and using our township, our public spaces to educate residents on digital safety and what it means to be a good digital citizen. And like digital citizenship in its broadest meaning means using the internet safely and responsibly, but it also encompasses a lot of, really timely topics such as, cyberbullying and privacy and media literacy and respectful debate and interactions online. So what I'd really like to see is a coordinated educational effort through our committee and the township and the community and possibly even our school district to reinforce what's being taught there to students about those issues, because a lot of that education could be helpful to our adults in the community as well. So that's just something to think about for our next meeting when we reconvene in August or September. So I don't know if Fred or Dave, if you have any other thoughts about, the roles that, we can play as committee members in helping the township.
Well, yeah, and again, I didn't find all my notes, but it's coming back to me. I remember thinking or writing or both that perhaps the highest profile department as a citizen that I see is the police department and the communications and traffic and snow and crime against senior citizens, and perhaps we could find a way to be more assertive. What do you do when? And again, the police chief appears to be a very high profile, communicative person. Somehow working that into this revised service so that somebody who gets a strange call about a credit card, give us your number, to your point, has somewhere to go quickly to find out who in law enforcement could help.
Yeah.
Also, in seeing the analytics on our website in the past, I think we saw Park and Recs was the #1 hit on our page. So again, it would be getting information out there and to the people who are looking for it. I know there are a number of platforms out there between Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. I mean, all those are platforms that we should be utilizing in some form or another. But I mean, those are discussions that have been ongoing for a while.
Yeah.
So we should continue to have those.
And the
Yeah.
township uses all of those platforms.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing, especially from Fred, is that having an app, developing a township app, and municipalities do have apps. There are companies that make apps for municipalities, and a resident having that app and notifications turned on. If there is something that needs to be blurted out to everybody who has that app, it's pushed out right away. So if a street has to be closed, if a tree's down after a storm, instead of getting an email from the township, they'll get that like Amber Alert or something that just buzzes on their phone, which is not a bad idea.
It's 100 degrees. There's a softball tournament or the baseball or whatever it is we have every year that seems to draw hundreds, if not thousands of people. Are you going to cancel it on a Saturday morning? And if my kid is, because it's 100 degrees, and where do I look to find out? And today our brains deal with this stuff instantaneously. You don't say to the kid, go to the computer and log on to lmt.org and see or call that phone number, but you look at your phone and say, oh my God, the game is still on. I mean, that's the way we live. That's the point I'm trying to make. I don't have the money to pay for it, to hand you, and they're not cheap, but it is the way we live.
Well, there's also the element of, we were kind of talking about the board's mission. There's plenty of content, as Fred's talking about, road closures. It's getting that information out to people, and where do we find it? Who's creating it? Where's it being funneled to? Those are things that I think we could be a big help with. Okay. I hear what Fred's saying about notifications. At the same time, you're getting a ton of notifications. People tend to shut them off, you know?
Right.
So that I understand we want to find one place that people can go to get the information. Sometimes pushing information is tough because people, again, will turn it off. So but it's the information itself that needs to be gathered and disseminated, and who's doing the gathering and who's pushing it out. That's the other thing that I think we need to talk about.
One of the problems township has right now is that the information gets on the website, but nobody accesses the website. One of the things that I've noticed over the last few years is somebody comes up during a meeting or a public comment, says, "Why don't you do this?" And I said, "Well, we did this." "Oh, where to find it?" "Just go to the website. It's on the front page." "Oh, so, no matter how much content, how current it is, if people don't know to go to this website, they're not going to get the information." So, and believe me, I understand the concept of turning off notifications. That would be the decision of the end user. Not, the township puts it out, provides the information. It's, if somebody doesn't want to get the information, that's okay. But then when somebody comes to the township, I didn't get the information, and says, "Well, we have the app, we have the notifications. You choose not to avail yourself of that. I can't help you." I'm not speaking as the board. I'm speaking as this. What would a reasonable person want? And if you want the information, you get the notifications. If there's a different way to do it other than that, I'm all for it. But people do have the opportunity to subscribe now to an email list, and I get emails all the time from the township, more than I care to have. But I get them, and I read what I want to read, and I don't read what I don't want to read. If there's a street that's closed because a tree's down or a power line's down, I get that information from the police department, but I have to be subscribing that. If there's a central source where we can just blurt it out, everybody that has it, and we keep on advertising the fact that subscribe to the app. This is for your where your taxpayer dollars go, and we give you this information. You're more than welcome to have it, and you don't have to do anything other than have the app and turn your notifications on. If there's an app, or a different way. I'm a no expert on this, but that's all we can do.
Yeah, I think it's also been a perception issue with the website, in that, again, this may have been before your time on the board, Fred, but that it wasn't being updated regularly. So it wasn't a place, even when people were told to go there, they would get frustrated because the latest news or whatever information they were looking for was either not on the homepage or hard to find, and it wasn't really updated very consistently. And I know that has gotten better in the past few years, but I think people still have that in the back of their mind. It took the township a very long time to get onto social media. It took
100%.
Yeah.
What's nice today is that our professional staff now has a bench. There's not one person in each department.
Right.
Now have multiple people that have multiple tasks and can do now have a better way to take the time to put the information in on a timely basis.
Right, for sure.
Good. Yeah, that's good. And maybe with this website relaunch, it's kind of a reset and a good opportunity to really publicize it and get the word out there that, things have changed. It's a better communication system, and you can rely on it to get the information you need. And I think, that would help as well.
Very simple URL, lmt.org. I mean, you can't get any more simple. I mean, Middletown Township, bucks.org, lmt.org is a great URL.
That domain, trust me.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've made it through all the agenda items. Is there, John, is there any public comment? Anybody calling in?
No public comment.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any other items they'd like to discuss? No? Okay. All right. Is there a move to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. And that concludes our meeting tonight. And I'll be in touch, committee members, about a working session within the next few weeks. And then we'll be in touch with Fred after that.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
Fred.
right. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
You guys.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.